Hey there, guys. Welcome back to my channel. So I got done finishing watching the third episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. And all I gotta say is that I thought this was a really damn good episode. I won't say that this is as good as episode 2, because I think episode 2, for me, was the best one that we of the season so far, because how they did the whole spectacle with the Battle of Jackson getting overrun and the death of Joel was well handled than what the Neil Druckmann could not have done in the game. I thought that they changed that for the better, even though I'm still torn that we had to lose Joel in the show so early on because it was just so rough. I mean, I still wish that Craig Mason and Neil Druckmann just find a way to stretch out the storyline and the continuation with Joel and Ellie, and then we can lead up into to the present day time of his death, maybe in the next season, and give him a conclusion. But we already know that we are going to explore through the flashbacks with Joel and Ellie. This will not be the last time we see Joel in the show because they still got a lot more context that they want to explore that they haven't done yet, which they have done that in the game with the flashbacks. So we're going to still continue on, but in this third episode, you're going to feel the loss of Joel and see through Ellie's pain that she is going through. And they did a 3-month time jump after the events of the second episode, which is something they never did in the second game. They just simply pick up right there, right where they left off. Ellie had to debate with Tommy to whether they should go to Seattle and go after Abby and his whole crew. I'm going to get into the major spoiler territory in case you haven't realized that this video is labeled a spoiler review. If you have not watched the episodes and not even the third one, best assured to add this video to your favorites list and come back later after you're done catching up on the show. And I will make some comparisons to the game as well for those of you who have not played the game. But anyway, getting into episode 3, we see Ellie waking up after she was being knocked unconscious and recovering from her injury after she was completely beaten to shit, and she's experiencing the loss of Joel. And you see her waking up in pain, screaming in agony, and she's in tears. And I thought that performance from Bella Ramsey was absolutely well handled. And I'm glad that they did a 3-month time jump, getting us a little bit more time to recover from the town after getting overrun. They had to experience the fallout, and then the town of Jackson had to be busy by rebuilding now that it's spring and no longer winter. And I love how they've handled the execution of it. But also, before we got into the 3-month time jump, my favorite scene in this whole episode with Tommy cleaning up with Joel's dead body and seeing the broken watch that Joel's daughter gave him in the first season of the first episode was absolutely emotionally moving. And you see the pain through Tommy's eyes, and Gabriel Luna gave him a terrific, believable performance. His words, his response to Joel, he says, "Give Sarah my love," knowing that he will be reunited with his dead daughter Sarah. And that just brought tears to my eyes that I wish they would have done that in the game. It would have brought such an impact to the story. That was one of the frustrating things I had with The Last of Us Part 2, and I think they did not do well by having Tommy mourn the death of his brother, because that was his brother. He had history with them. And he experienced the loss of his own niece by the time that the whole world went to shit. And him and Joel had to survive for all these years, living through a lot of chaos and nightmares through all these years in a post-apocalyptic world. And that scene itself was so much better than I hoped it would be. And I thought what they did with the Gabriel Luna's version of Tommy was far better written than they could have not have done in the game. And now with 3-month time jump, Ellie's recovering from her injury because she's still bruised up and she's completely hiding her own feelings of what she's really going through. She's going through a lot of grief. She tends to not think before she speaks, and she just simply masculate of her emotions of what she's really feeling. And we see her going to Joel's house, seeing all of his belongings, including the broken watch that Joel's daughter Sarah gave him. I wish they would have shown a snapshot photo, a Polaroid photo of Joel and Sarah. That would have brought fucking tears to my eyes because we know the history behind it, and knowing that we know that he probably is reunited with his own daughter in the afterlife, if that's ever really such a thing. But I thought that scene really hit hard, and you can really believe Bella Ramsey's performance. Say what you want about her being miscast, but I don't care. I mean, the more I see her, the more I start to believe it. And her going through Joel's jacket and putting her down her face and being in tears. That's exactly how it happened in the game. But in the game version, it didn't do a 3 month time jump. They just did it the next day when she was mourning the death of Joel and going through processing her grief. But I thought that this scene itself was kind of far better. But now when we get into Dina coming to Ellie, telling her that she knows all the names, including Abby, and she knows where they are, and she knows that they're in Seattle. She withheld that information for 3 months, but she had to because she was in no condition. Because if she knew where they were, she would have crawled out and go out to the ends of the earth to find Abby and get her revenge. Because she does not give a fuck. She doesn't care. She has nothing to lose. She only cares about her own personal quest for revenge. But and I can understand why she would be pissed at Dina, but at the same time, I understand why, because she was in no condition. She definitely wants to get revenge too. She's not the only one. Dina really loved Joel, and she tells him like, "I love Joel too. You're not the only one who lost him." Because Joel treated her like a daughter in the first episode when we first had their screen time together. Because that did not happen in the game either. She was all about ride or die, and she was just going on a quest without thinking twice about it. But this one was more believable because she was with Joel the day he got killed by Abby. She was drugged, she was knocked unconscious, she was held to a gunpoint, and Joel had to make the ultimate sacrifice by saving Dina, including Ellie, in the moment like this. Because if you've seen him unconscious being beat to shit by Abby, he tried to get up, but at the same time he stopped himself. Because that's the way I interpret that scene. Because he knows that if he does get up, they will kill Ellie and Dina, and he did the only thing. He backed down. And why he never fought back. Even when he was beat to shit, he did not try to fight back because we know how much of a survivor and a fighter he is. He's very tough. He can handle it. But at the same time, he had to make the ultimate choice. You know what? I got to tap out. Do what I have to do to save Dina and Ellie. And I thought that scene in episode 2 was powerful and believable because we didn't really get that believability in the game version. But that's just me. But anyway, we get into the town hall meeting where they're going to have to meet up and debate whether and try to give their own and give the whole town a say of whether they should send their own people out there to in Seattle to go and hunt down this whole crew, the outsiders, after losing one of their closest ones of the town. But I love how they made this whole believable in debate because one of the people are saying that no, you should not send your own best men out there to hunt down one person because then you're going to put the town very vulnerable and at a tough spot because you guys got overrun 3 months ago and you're trying to rebuild the town and rebuild the barriers. And if you leave, you're going to leave the whole town defenseless. And I love how they did this whole debate and saying that you should not do it, and some of them saying that you should. And Ellie is going to have to put up this argument and give a notes because she will speak without thinking, and she will say, "I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about anybody. I only care about going after one person that took Joe away from me." But she has to make take a note and speak from her own speech and try to come up with some BS excuse why they should go and try to tell the people what they want to hear because she only cares about going after Abby, and that's all she cares about. She doesn't really care about the whole town. She will go without thinking twice about it, but she has to make a closing argument because if you say that you don't give a fuck and say fuck all of you, I'm going after Abby, then it's not going to make a closing argument. They're not going to vote yes on this if you say that without an impulse. So she had to make notes and tell the people what they want to hear. And I love that this whole debate and making it so believable. And this is something that they kind of did wrong with The Walking Dead. Because with The Walking Dead, when every time they go out and try to hunt down the people that did them wrong and killed one of their own people, they mostly leave the whole town defenseless. And that kind of always bothers me. But in this episode, this was far more believable and more realistic. You got this one guy in the town who was speaking forgive and forget, and that we shouldn't have to go after revenge. Just because we think we should get it doesn't mean we should. And it's not going to solve anything. We have to learn to forgive. He's all about the forgiving type. And then we have Seth, out of all people, who is a fucking bigot that we saw him talking shit to Ellie and Dina at a New Year's Eve party in the first episode. He's willing to stand up and fight for Ellie and say that you should do this. You should go after them. And it's kind of a different change of pace that they have not done in the game. They have not had Seth do that at all. All he did was given a sincere, some kind of sincere apology to Ellie in the game, and he's never brought up ever again. And they wanted to give him something more meaningful and more purpose, and that he's just a more of a complicated guy. And it seems like the writers Craig Mason and Neil Druckmann are trying to give him a little bit more redemption, and that he's just a complicated guy. And for him to get a redemption and actually helping her and Dina try to sneak out of Jackson at nighttime and give a one handshake for that moment of respect, that scene itself hit hard. I thought it was good. And also, it was more believable that for her to go out on a quest on her own is not very realistic because you're going out from Jackson to Seattle, taking a long trip, and you're only getting limited supplies. But with Dina was still going to agree to go with Ellie because she's all about ride or die. She really cares for Ellie and she cared for Joel. She loved both of them. And we already know that Dina is in love with Ellie, even though she doesn't want to admit it right now. But she will do everything for her, of course. And it was believable. And I love Isabel Merced's performance. I love how she was able to give her a list of things that we need to bring if we're going on a quest. And I thought that that was so believable and how realistic it was that you had to be very well prepared to go on this long road trip cross country. I thought that was incredibly well handled, and the chemistry between her and Bella Ramsey was so good. And and then when we visit Joel's grave, that cinematography that in the shot in the scene hit on so many emotional levels. We see her going to Joel's grave and her putting those coffee beans down on his grave. Oh yeah, if you haven't noticed it in the first season, Joel always makes crappy coffee and Ellie hates coffee. And we know that how much that he loves drinking shitty coffee. And for her to put those coffee beans in his grave was so very well poetic and very ironic at the same time. But it was so emotionally moving and it was so good. And we always question, can she leave the show on her own? Because they took Pedro Pascal's name out of the opening credits in the show. And you see at the end of the credits, you see two people with Joel and Ellie in the first two episodes, but then in the third episode, it's only Ellie. So basically, she has to be Joel in the show. And we already know that there's going to be more flashbacks with Joel. I've already brought this up many times before. I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be a little bit tough for me to continue on the show without the main character that we loved because we've seen a lot of shows that when they get rid of our main characters that we grew to love, sometimes it doesn't always turn out well. But with a few exceptions like Game of Thrones, so many popular characters that were able to carry the show without the characters that we grew attached to, and most of them gets killed off early on. And I hope that they can continue that consistency with the quality. And they did it well so far. The third episode is just giving us time to breathe and let us sink in and let us process through our grief for the loss of our favorite character, Joel. And I thought that was incredible. And then going on to cross country in Seattle on a horse, I thought that between her and Dina was so well compelling, especially when in the game version, I kind of felt bored watching them, and I just felt very one note and dull. But in this one was much more better pace, much more believable, especially in the tent scene between the two of them. And you see Dina try to ask questions about the kids and how would she rate it, which that was definitely a callback to The Last of Us Part 2. But this one, they did a little bit of a switcheroo on that one in this scene. And I thought that scene was so believable. And you already know that Dina is in love with her, and she doesn't want to admit the fact that she is, and that she is a lesbian, that she's in the girls. Everybody knows that Ellie is in the girls because she's openly about it, but Dina is not very openly about it because she was originally with Jesse, and and to see that whole process was so good and well executed. And then we meet up with the new crew that we haven't met before, but I believe we met them in the game in The Last of Us Part 2, these cult religious group who are fleeing from the war. And you see the daughter and the father explaining what they had to do to survive, and they follow this prophet. And then they're about to get overrun, which we're going to assume the wolves are the one who are going after them. And we caught up with Dina and Ellie that they have been slaughtered. It's a massacre. Even the daughter and the father got slaughtered. That we meet up early on, and she's wondering, like, are these the same groups that Abby is with? They really kill innocent people, innocent kids. And Dina's like, yeah. And I don't believe that Abby would be involved in that, even though she's associated with the wolves. But I don't think Abby would be the one killing innocent kids or families or anything like that, no matter how badly we hate the character. But I don't think that's in her character as much as we hate the character, but I don't think she would do that. I don't think she was involved in that, even though she's associated with them. And I don't even think she even realized that what she's getting herself into. After the Fireflies have fallen, they're following a group of the wolves. And we're going to see in the next episode with Jeffrey Wright, who is the leader of the wolves, the one who slaughtered the whole religious cult group. And I believe that they were a little bit more ruthless in The Last of Us Part 2, that they were called the Scars. I think that was the name of the group. I can't remember. I remember they were in the game, and then we meet them up later on, and Abby come cross paths with them. But this one feels a little bit more different. Now we get into the city where now we get to Seattle, and it looks beautiful, and it looks like it's not like heavily guarded from Allie and Dina's point of view. They think, oh, it's not going to be heavily guarded, it's going to be safe, and we already know that that's not going to happen. And they're going to run into the wolves, the whole group. And we see one of Abby's group, her guarding the whole thing on the building, and we see the tank, and we know that this shit's going to hit the fan in the fourth episode, and we see that in the promo. So anyway, overall, I really enjoy this episode. I'm glad that they were able to give us a little bit more time to breathe and process everything that we experience. I still am, I said this before and I'll say it again. I mean, I understand Abby's motives. I really do, but I really will not forgive what Abby had done, because comparing to what Joel did, she did a far worse comparing to what Joel did to Abby's father in some of the Firefly group. But I think that what she did was completely unforgiven. And I know that they're going to try to give us to sympathize with her character, and we're going to see her side of her point of view later in the season. I get it. And it's going to be hard for me to forgive her, and it's going to be hard for me to even care for her, no matter what her excuses are. But you know what? Caitlin Dever is putting on an incredible performance. I will give her the benefit of the doubt and hope for the best. But it's going to be very difficult to have the show go on without Joel, and can these remaining characters carry the show on their own, because they're splitting into two seasons from season 2 and 3 from the storyline of The Last of Us Part 2, the game. So what's going to happen? How far they're going to go? We'll see what happens. But anyway, what did you think of this recent episode of The Last of Us Season 2? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you like this review, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification so you know when my videos are up. And if you want to follow my social media platforms, the link tree will be down in the description down below. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from. And stay tuned for more of my content.